Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to be trying a technique with these tissues, or Kleenex, napkins, whatever you want to call them, that I found at Tuesday morning. We're also going to be using some Delusions ink, as well as some foam letter stamps that I happen to have, and a couple of colors of paint, and some Finnabair clear gesso right there. So I'm gonna set my timer. All right, so now I've got my timer set for 12 minutes. And I'm gonna start by taking this tissue napkin and pulling it apart and kind of figuring out what part I want to use in my illustrating Bible. And I'm just gonna tear it because everything I've kind of read and seen says doing this technique by tearing it actually gives you a smoother edge whenever you try to lay it down. And I was covering too much of my words, so I went ahead and trimmed some more. And that's when I realized I actually needed to pull off one more layer. So you want to get down to where you have just one layer, just the decorative layer, because you're going to get the smoothest texture and the best finish for this project. Normally I am anti using clear gesso as a bonding agent, but because this is so thin, I think it's going to work fine. That's what everyone else has used, so I figured we would give it a try. You'll also notice that I've got a piece of wax paper behind my page that I'm working on that not only protects my page behind, but it's going to allow me here in a minute whenever I put my tissue down, it's going to allow me to overlap that over the edges, and that way when I trim it here in a minute I can get a really close clean line and not have to try to actually fit that tissue paper edge to the edge of my Bible. So now I'm just doing like you would with any kind of decoupage, Mod Podge, and I'm just adding a second layer on top just to kind of adhere that down. And you can see that I'm also getting up under that edge, and you can see I realized how fragile this napkin was because I tore a little piece of it, but that's okay. We're going to cover that later. So I'm just giving it just a thin coat over it. This paper is so thin that it does not require a whole lot. In case I haven't said it yet, we're working in Joshua chapter 6. We're using verse 20 as our reference for today. And I'm just going to hit my piece right now with just a heat gun just to get it nice and dry before we do that next step. So the verse we're using is Joshua 6:20. It says, "So the troops shouted and the trumpets sounded. Then they heard the blast of the trumpets and the troops gave a great shout and the wall collapsed." And I just thought that was really important kind of right now in the kind of crazy world we're living in, just to remember that we as Christians have a voice and that our voices have the capabilities to make whole walls fall when we have the power of Christ behind us. So I just wanted to kind of document that in today's project. You can see I'm removing my wax paper and I'm just going to be trimming that paper down. One thing that's kind of funny is when I bought these at Tuesday morning, I grabbed them originally just because of the flowers, because I thought the flowers were pretty. And then when I got them home and I was trying to decide what verse to use, I looked at them and I realized, oh, they actually have a brick wall behind them as well. And so that's where kind of the idea of using this verse came from, was actually from the tissue. So I've seen a lot of people use this technique, and I will say it's fun and it gives you a really great finished project. My only concern about it is I happen to find these on clearance, and it's a big old pack. I don't even know how many's in there, like 30 or something. And they're regularly $4.50, but they were on clearance, so they were like $1.99. But I only needed one, so I'm not sure how cost effective this particular design or this particular choice is, but it does make for really pretty pages. So if you had friends you could swap with, that would kind of work. So now I'm just going to take my green paint and mix it with just a little bit of my clear gesso just to give it a little bit more translucency. And I'm just dry brushing it over. That's going to camouflage my line between my words and my page and my napkin. It's also going to help disguise the fact that my napkin is an off-white and it's a slightly darker tone than my journaling Bible. So it's just going to kind of give it a little bit more sense of cohesion and make it look like, less like, oh look, she just stuck something over in the corner. I'm going to do the same with that kind of orange color. I don't even know what this color is called, but it's pretty. It's just a cheap color from, I think, Joann's. So I'm just dry brushing that kind of all over, again, mixing it with my clear gesso just to give it a little bit more fluidity and a little bit more movement and a little bit of texture. And to finish up, I'm just going to grab my kind of chunky, I guess you'd call them foam letters that I've had for years from back in my scrapbooking days. And I'm just using some Adirondack ink in black. I actually started out using my Delusions pad, and I think the black in that was kind of drying out, so I kind of switched up just to my archival ink from Ranger. And even that, I think it's about time to get a new one because that's my favorite. I use it all the time. It's just the jet black, very multi-purpose and permanent. And you can see I messed up my L a little bit, but that's okay. It's fine. And I'm just going to go back over my A just to give it a little bit more darkness to the color because it was a little bit lighter than the other ones. And I started to grab a thin point pen, and I realized with as graphic as the word fall was, just a regular small pen wasn't going to work. So I just grabbed a trusty little Sharpie and just added a few little letters. It just says they will ... and the word fall. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more of that paint just to disguise that edge a little bit more. And my timer just went off, you can see that. And I'm just going to underline my verse. And we are done. And that is today's 12-minute Bible journaling. I hope you'll give it a try and leave me a comment and let me know if you do. Don't forget to subscribe.